Why am I not?
Oh, did I not hit it? A second. I did it again.
It's time for a Big Blue Kickoff Live
Nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it because you did.
on Giants.com
You know what I saw? New York Giant Pride.
and the Giants mobile app.
17-14 is the final. One touchdown, we are world champions. Believe it, and it will happen.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs, have some fun.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday's Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. Schmeelk, Medow with you. My bad for starting late today. That's on me. A little scheduling disagreement, but I'm here now, so we're rocking and rolling. Talking Giants football with you. We'll get you on the lines as quickly as we can at 201-939-4513. Lance, I gave my spiel on the game yesterday. They don't want to hear from me again, so give me your thumbnail on the game, what you thought of it, and just kind of what your main takeaway was.
Well, I think the thumbnail, John, revolves around the run defense, and unfortunately that's been the big theme over the last few weeks, and the numbers are not getting any better. To me, the best way to sum up the rush defensive performance was first drive of the fourth quarter, Niners go on a 9-play, 76-yard drive, and 8 of those plays were runs. So, I mean, the Giants knew what was coming, the majority of them with McCaffrey, and they got 63 yards out of those 8 plays on the ground. And, of course, it finished with a Brian Robinson Jr. touchdown. And it was interesting because Brian Dable was asked a question during yesterday's media session, John, and the question was, why is the big names on the defensive front, why is the production based on the name and the notoriety of those names not transferring over to the field? And, you know, he gave his overall synopsis, but the reason why is because even with the shortcomings of the group up front, the secondary and the linebacking core, to me, is where the problem area is for the Giants' run defense, and that was on full display for all the wrong reasons against the Niners, because Brian Robinson Jr. had that big run for a touchdown, and he bumped right into Deonte Banks, and you see secondary players and linebackers being in position to wrap up guys, John, or at least in the initial point of contact, and they're just not bringing them down. So what should be, let's say, a 5 or a 6 yard run is instead turning into a 10 or 11 yard run. And that's why you're seeing a lot of these explosive runs over the course of a contest, whether it's Philadelphia or, of course, San Francisco. And until they put a stop to that, it's going to be very hard for anything else to improve, because there's a reason why Mac Jones completed his first 14 passes of the game, right?
And not ideal.
And none of them were 20-plus yards down the field. He wasn't going for the home run, John.
Nope, he was not.
He was going for the base hit. He was going for the double. And that was a sound game plan for the Niners. Why press the envelope if you don't have to? So until the Giants stop the run, quarterbacks are going to get more and more comfortable, because they're going to say, well, if I'm facing 3rd and 4 and 3rd and 5, I don't need to try to go deep down the field. I could just take the intermediate routes, and that's exactly what the Niners were subscribing to all throughout the game. So, once again, going back to the main thumbnail, before we even delve into some of the offensive takeaways, it starts and ends with the inability to stop the run.
Yeah, and look, I wrote on cover 3 yesterday. My theme was the Giants better get their guys back in the secondary. You know, you look at the amount of pressure and sacks the Giants put on Mac Jones on Sunday, it was infinitesimal. It was just small. But my theory, or at least my argument that I made on cover 3, is that wasn't the fault of the defensive front, because Matt Jones had an average time to throw of 2.48 seconds. Do you know how hard it is to get home on a quarterback in under 2.5 seconds? It's almost impossible. You have to have a offensive lineman fall down, a no-hitter quick win. Take your pick, right? It's just very hard to do. And the reason Mac Jones was able to get the ball out so quickly is guys were open right away. It was back foot hits, ball comes out. The couple times Mac Jones did hold it, that's when they actually got their sacks. So he was able to get the ball out very quickly, which did not allow the defensive front time to actually get home and get their sacks, right? And throw on top of that, Mac Jones only had to throw 24 passes. He dropped back 27 times in the game.
Sure.
Because they ran the ball so well, and the Niners played with the lead, and they can control the tempo of the game. The point I made, and then you can hit the Giants offense after this, everyone knew what the 49ers were going to do game plan-wise into this game. It was out of Kyle Shanahan's 101 playbook. We're going to play Kyle Juszczyk a lot. We're going to play either a fullback and a tight end or 2 tight ends. We're going to go big personnel. And the Giants were in their base defense for a lot of this game. We're going to run the ball. We're going to play action. We're going to get the ball out fast because the Niners' offensive line is not great, going against a great Giants pass rush with a very talented pass rush. And then when they do drop back to pass, the ball has to come out fast. And it's going to be a bunch of crossing routes. I mean, this is what Kyle Shanahan does every single week. This is nothing new. This is what he does. And the Giants defense was not able to take away any one of those things in that list of things they were trying to do. And that's how you get to the point where the Niners scored 34 points.
Yeah, they did not disrupt the flow, but it also relates to what I was talking about earlier, John, the down and distance on second and third down. The reason why Mac Jones didn't have to hold the football is because if he only has to throw a pass for 5 or 6 yards, you don't need time for the other routes to develop down the field. So it worked in unison from that standpoint, and the one time they did get to him was when I think they were trying to maybe create something late in the first half, and that led to, obviously, the hit by Brian Burns. Abdul Carter recovers the ball, and that brings me to the segue to the offense. I'm not saying that a game is made or broken on one possession, but the biggest missed opportunity for the offense was when you get the ball off of the lone takeaway in the game. It was a relatively clean game, and you can't even put 3 points on the board because Gano wound up missing on the field goal. It just was a huge missed opportunity. Now, I'm not one to subscribe to momentum. Momentum to me is a hypothetical, imaginative term that doesn't decide football games. But I think just from a pure confidence standpoint, hey, we're going into the locker room, we at least have something tangible to walk away with that would have been beneficial. Also, you had an extremely short field where you weren't putting the pressure on your offense to have to go 70 to 80-yard drives, and that not happening and not coming to fruition, to me, disrupted at least the flow of the offense. On top of then, you're now asking the defense to bail you out, and that's not going to happen when, by the way, the latest numbers, the Giants are dead last in yardage per carry on the season, right? 5.5 yards, and they're giving up 150 yards per game on the ground, and that is the second worst mark in the NFL. So if that doesn't sum things up, I don't know what does.
Yeah, last thing I'll say, and I said this yesterday for the folks that weren't listening, I'll just repeat myself. The Giants scored on their first drive, a 10-play, 64-yard drive for a touchdown. Their next 5 possessions, they gained a total of 39 yards on, do quick math, 18 plays. A 3-play drive, a 5-play drive, a 3-play drive, a 3-play drive, a 4-play drive. They gained 1 first down on those 5 drives. And yes, the stats are going to look okay because you have those 2 touchdown drives at the end of the game, but you're down 3 scores in the fourth quarter at that point.
Philosophy changes for the Niners.
Everything changes, correct. So, yes, does that make you feel good about Jackson Dart, how he played? He looked good, made some nice throws? Yeah, absolutely. But in terms of how the offense played in the game, I can't take that too seriously.
I'm with you.
Those 5 drives to close out the first half, that's where this game was lost to me. If you would have told me before the game, and I said this to Paul yesterday, Lance, if you would have told me, and I thought this was going to be a shootout type of game, because you know Kyle Shanahan's an offensive genius, and you know the Niners' defense was a mess, and the Giants' secondary was a mess on defense. So I thought the Niners were going to score in this game. I thought the Giants' offense would be capable of keeping pace with them because of all the injuries on the Niners' defense too. And if you would have told me before the game that the Giants would have 7 points at halftime, I would have told you there's a 90% chance they're losing the game. And that's what we were looking at, and no surprise, the Giants ended up losing the game.
Well, I want to just peel back your numbers. I even tweeted this out during the game. So the Giants' opening touchdown drive, they had 4 first downs, okay? Let's put the yardage to side.
I got 5 here on the play-by-play, just for the record.
Okay. When I was counting the play-by-play, you know what? Because I always wonder whether or not that initial one sometimes is counted. If you go play-by-play, and I went through this
it shouldn't be,
multiple times.
He's got 0 on these other ones.
All right, well, my math has 4. Then on the next 5 possessions after that drive, they had 1, and that was 3 3-and-outs, and then the missed field goal set up by a takeaway. So, I mean, that clearly shows you it went complete 180, and I also wonder...
Maybe they count scoring a touchdown as getting a first down?
That's what I wanted clarification. I wasn't able to get that.
Maybe because you're right. They gained in the field of play 4.
Correct.
Maybe
and that's how I go.
Maybe scoring the touchdown counts as a first down because it's a first and goal. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
Oh no, well, you know what? Yeah, it's first and 10 at the 15. So if you score a touchdown there, you're gaining the 10 yards for the first down. So that theoretically would be first down number 5.
Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was looking at it more in the middle of the field or in the flow of the offense. But the bottom line is the numbers still hold true.
Sorry.
5 versus 1. No, it's fine. I mean, we could talk about technicalities till we're blue in the face. But the point is the yardage that you showcased, the first down disparity that I showcased, showed that there was a huge difference in terms of how they opened up the game versus what they've done after. And, John, you and I have had a lot of conversations over the years about this. And here you have a rookie quarterback. And most offenses, okay, are scripted. The opening drive, they lay it out, they work on it in practice.
And they work on it a lot.
Correct. And you want to do that even more with a young quarterback. You want it to be comfortable. What I'm getting at is, and this has been a trend for multiple games.
Tiki and I have talked about this in the postgame. Go ahead.
And
you got it.
The point is that they look great coming out of the gates because I think they go through it during the week. Dart knows who he wants to go to. The defenses are still getting a feel for him, especially unlike the Eagles, teams that are seeing Dart right for the first time in person. And then after that, it's a completely different story. And after that, your plays are not scripted anymore. Okay? So we are seeing a change, and I think a lot of that has to do with they're good when they're planning what they want to do, and everything is gone through during the course of the week.
And they've played specifically designed for the opponent that you're getting to, all that sort of stuff.
And then after that, now all of a sudden the defense is making adjustments. They get a little bit more comfortable in terms of who Dart is in person. And the Giants are not showing that same level of being able to adjust on the fly. And that, to me, is the biggest problematic theme on the offensive side of the ball versus the run defense on the defensive side.
Yeah, I think inability to run the ball in this game was stark compared to what they were doing with Scadaboo. They were in a lot of third and longs. I went through this with Paul yesterday after that first drive where they converted only 1 third down, by the way, in that drive. They only had 1 third down. It was a 3rd and 5. After that, the Giants on their drives, and they didn't cover any of these third downs, by the way. They had a 3rd and 9. They had a 3rd and 13. They had a 3rd and 12. And they had a 3rd and 7. That is not going to get the job done. So just stuff to talk about.
Well,
here.
and speaking of the run game, here's the other thing. And his numbers look much better than they did against Philadelphia. But I just think the way teams are starting to approach Dart, they're having a better feel of saying, we're not going to let him run wild. Now, you look at the numbers.
It started with Denver.
Yeah, 8 for 56 and a touchdown, 7 yards per run. Once again, you'll take that extremely respectable. But if you just look at the flow of the game, I think teams are just having a better feel where they're saying, we're not going to let Dart damage the game on the ground. And I've talked about this for weeks, John. I've said, if they're going to make an adjustment from that standpoint, what do the Giants offensively hang their hat on? Meaning, what is the identity to maybe throw a curveball to change the flow of the game? And I think we have yet to see that.
Well, I think it was Scadaboo, right?
Of course, but he's no longer
now he's not there
in the
anymore.
equation.
Correct.
Yeah,
exactly right. 201-939-4513. All right, let's go to Brandon in New Jersey. He will lead us off today. Brandon, what's going on?
What's going on, fellas? Lance and John.
Hello.
How's it going?
We're good.
What's happening?
Right,
What's on your mind?
So I tuned in for my daily dose, my noon o'clock shot of just bad news, and y'all pulling every bad stat possible. Y'all got to beat me up every day with how bad the Giants. Tell me every stat possible. Tell me why the Giants look like they did on Sunday. I saw it. We don't need to keep reliving it. But so we're at that point in the year. It's not even December. And so I want you guys to remember, we can have fun. We don't have to, we don't have to match on this show what the team actually looks like. So I have one fun thing for you guys today, because you're going to have all the diatribes of how everybody thinks they're going to fix the team, right? You're going to deal with that the rest of the year. This is my diatribe on how I think we should fix the team.
Sure. What do you got?
I think, number one, we go ahead and open up a new position. It's called the coordinator of coordination. There's a lot of discoordination going on the team. And the very first person I'd like to hire for this new position is LT. I see him around on the stadium. He seemed to not be doing much, hanging out. We don't know until we ask him. All I want him to do is just sit in the meetings, sit around, Some people may have to sign a few waivers. And then after that, have LT sit in the meetings, give his constructive LT criticism. A few waivers may need to be signed. Some, a little straightening, just a little bit of straightening. I don't think anybody has Hail Mary to save their job by calling LT yet.
Well, Brandon,
And
I think
feel like
I think
we gotta do
if they're willing to have these team meetings on the 9th green in Florida somewhere, I think maybe he'd be okay doing it. But if it's not on a golf course, I'm not sure LT would be willing to do something like that, to be totally honest with you.
Yeah, not sure how much of the winter he's spending in East Rutherford,
Yeah,
New
I don't
Jersey.
think much.
Yeah.
Okay, my actual question to you guys, though. So some fun, a little fun.
Yes.
If you could, for real, hire a coordinator of coordination, just somebody to sit, honorable mention, John Gruden. If I could, for real, make this position, and Mr. Gruden wants to coach, and he knows a lot more about coaching than I would. I'm going to say this whole coaching staff. I'm going to just say it. Yeah. And I think if you have him to come sit in, fly on the wall, you don't got to change everything. Everybody does it. This is the problem, John. We had a conversation about first-time GM, first-time head coaches, right? Long time ago, we had this conversation. And every time there's going to be problems, there's going to be hiccups. There's going to be first time you learning this, first time you did this, first time you did that, first time. And there's always growing pains. And all that ever happens is by the time somebody learns something, they get fired. And then the next person's brand new, and they're going to get fired. And instead, how about we just get somebody with experience that's seen a few of these ships sink? Somebody that, and they, you know what?
You mean like Pat Shermer? Wait, hold on, Brendan. You mean like someone like Pat Shermer and Dave Gettleman?
No. Well,
But they had plenty of experience when they hired them.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, somebody that was at. But my point was John Gruden. Have John Gruden come in, because there seems to be some disconnect between whether it's the messaging, the coaching. I feel it's an experience. The other that's the first time for Shane Bowen. No, it's not. He was Tennessee.
No, he was Tennessee defensive coordinator.
Yeah, he's
But,
not his first
I don't
rodeo.
know, it feels very immature, not like childish, but like just we're not very far along in the journey. One of the things Daniel Jones I listened to that Daniel Jones said was that when it was like he almost graduated when he went over with McConnell. It was about his preparation. It was about what they were looking for. It wasn't just, better coaching. It was like a better. And instead of always blowing up everything, it seems to me that there's no, let's just try to fix what's here. And for me, seriously, coordination.
Thank you, Brendan.
Yeah, I mean,
the rest of the season and sit in the back.
Appreciate the phone call,
Thank
Brendan.
you, Brendan. Appreciate it, man.
I mean, you're preaching to the choir. That's the problem for the National Football League. There is no patience. We talk about it every year. It's the game of let's just change for the sake of change. Nobody wants to stick with an individual and try to play things out. But in fairness, this group he was talking about, it seems kind of new. They're 4 years in, John, these staff members.
Right. And
so I don't buy the fact that there's not enough seasoning on staff.
And
from
by
that
the way,
standpoint.
I know he brought up the Daniel Jones quote about Kevin O'Connell and the meetings in the Vikings. We saw that too. But Brian Dable came from a coach. He was in meetings with Nick Saban,
Belichick,
Bill Belichick, and then he had Josh Allen in a room. He was in a room with Tom Brady. I think he understands the details of getting ready for a game. And by the way,
Kafka's been with Andy Reid.
Mike Kafka, you took the words right out of my
Sorry,
mouth.
yeah.
No, you're fine. You're right, because I think that's an even bigger point. Who's a better coach preparing an offense to be ready for a game than Andy frickin' Reid? And that's where Mike Kafka came from. Now, if you're asking for me, he calls a coordination, my idea is he kind of wants an idea guy. Is that who he's thinking about? A guy that brings in, unique ideas?
Well,
is that what he's thinking? Or, a connector? I don't really understand the job. Because if you can go from LT to John Gruden, I don't want to put those guys in the same box necessarily, so I'm not sure exactly what he's looking for.
Well, and also, not to take anything away from LT, okay? He's got a Hall of Fame career, one of the greatest, but never coached, to my knowledge. So you're now expecting that that's going to translate and he's going to be able to express that in a way that helps the current players elevate their game. And there's not necessarily always a connect, at least from that standpoint. But you see a lot of individuals on staff, John, even if you peruse NFL rosters, they have consultants.
Right.
Who are not truly a coordinator or a position coach, but some of them have previous head coaching experience and so forth. So you have, for example, Mike McCoy, who now is the new Tennessee Titans coach. He was a consultant on staff, and he was promoted. He wasn't a positional coach. He wasn't a coordinator.
Right.
So that's a common practice. If Brian Dable said he wanted somebody to come in and look from the big picture perspective, all right, give me your take on how practices are run or what's going on in position meetings. Nothing's stopping Brian from doing that tomorrow.
I'll give you a name. How about Antonio Pierce? He was a head coach for the Raiders.
Yeah.
Experience here, knows the building. I know he's been going around this offseason to visiting teams and stuff like that. He's really good with the players. He's not afraid to tell players they don't want to hear, stuff they don't want to hear, and Lord knows he's one of the toughest guys I've ever known in my life. So there's an idea guy that I would throw in as someone that can, but again, I don't think that's the problem here. I don't think that's necessary. He asked me the question, so I'm answering it, but I don't think that would really do anything, to be quite honest with you.
I don't know how much heavy lifting it's going to do. Nick Saban is another guy who he could call in. I understand he didn't have a great NFL track record, but he's still an extremely knowledgeable coach, and he was a great defensive coordinator with Belichick in Cleveland, so there's nothing wrong with that.
No Urban Meyer on your list?
No, I wouldn't necessarily recommend. Urban also doesn't have enough of a sample size of the NFL to justify that.
I wouldn't think so.
No, John, I don't want to get off topic here, but a related note where I think sometimes it could just help the coach. It may not help the team, but it just gives the coach a fresh taste. I call Columbia football, and they're going through their fair share of ups and downs. Columbia's head coach brought in the former Wake Forest head coach, who he's very friendly with, to come in and sit in every single meeting, film session, see how practice
see if things can be done differently or better.
Yeah, just to get an idea. I mean, he has confidence in his staff, but sometimes you can't break through the wall, and it helps to have another voice. So I don't think it's going to move mountains, to your point, but I understand the view of maybe just, okay, tweak the time you run the meeting, or, give the players off this time of the day. I don't know. Something like that.
I got you. Little things.
Just give a little nuance to what's on the table.
So we have had a couple trades at the trade deadline, by the way.
Yes,
the trade
and the
deadline,
one that you reacted in case the audience didn't catch on.
Yes.
I didn't want to interrupt the topic at hand.
And neither did I,
Yes.
but I figured I'll bring it up before we get to the next call here.
Sure.
A name that we had not heard mentioned at all in trade discussions, because didn't the Jets just pay him too?
They did. Yeah.
Sauce Gardner on his way to the Indianapolis Colts for 2 first-round picks. I think it's fair to say the Colts are going for it.
Just a tad.
And by the way, that Colts pick is probably going to be in the 20s. I don't know where in the 20s, because remember, the Colts have a tough schedule the rest of the way. I don't know how many games they're going to win or lose the rest of this year. But they don't have to pay Sauce Gardner's signing bonus, which the Jets already paid last year, so that makes the contract a little bit more palatable. But the Jets get 2 first-round picks back for Sauce Gardner. If they're doing that, and, Aaron Glenn trading a really good cornerback, I'm sure that's something that is near and dear to his heart, being, considering where he played. I do wonder, if you're going to do that, why wouldn't you trade Breece Hall? You know what I mean? If you're trading away your players, Breece Hall's a free agent after the year. Maybe they're going to re-sign him. I don't know. But that would be the other logical guy that I would think they might try to move.
Well, you know what happens when you bring in a new GM and a new head coach, John. All bets are off, and anybody who was selected from the previous regime, and sometimes we've even experienced that here with the Giants, you never know. Nobody should be guaranteed regardless of signing a contract. So Sauce Gardner obviously now goes to a defense that is loving what the offense is putting up, and they have a legitimate path to win the AFC South. So it's a different ball game for Indy compared to where they were in previous years. And when you have a chance to do some damage because you're not guaranteed to duplicate that success, I understand why a team like them is saying, hey, we'll give up 2 first-round picks. I don't think Sauce has been producing the same way that we've seen in previous years this season, but sometimes you move, you change your uniform, just like Logan Wilson going to the Cowboys, who had not gotten as much playing time with Cincy this year. It could very well flip the switch in a player. It's not unheard of.
Adonai Mitchell also going back to the Jets apparently in that trade.
Oh, wow. Okay, so
another
they
player
the young
as well.
wide receiver.
And because he had been inactive a couple games this year, Mitchell.
Yeah.
They're very deep at wide receiver, the Colts, so I get it. But another piece heading back to the Jets. And the other trade, I have not seen compensation yet for this, Lance. I'm not sure if you have, but Rashid Shaheed, and this is the receiver that was more likely to get traded from the Saints, based on what I had heard, heading to the Seattle Seahawks for, I have not seen the pick compensation.
I have not
yet.
seen any pick compensation.
I can't
Schefter
imagine
is just reporting
it'll be
the
much,
trade.
maybe like a 4th round pick, 5th round pick, something like that. I would think 5th rounder maybe. Surprised a little bit. Now Cooper Kupp did get hurt last week, but Torrey Horton has looked very good at the time he has played this year. But he's a speed guy. He takes
the top off the
ball.
ball.
Takes the top off the defense. So I get it. And look, the Seahawks, another team, right? It's funny. The surprise team in the AFC, and I guess what I would consider the surprise team in the NFC, trying to make 2 moves to try to sustain their run here a little bit.
Yeah, well, because once again, I just don't think you could take for granted that this is going to repeat itself. I mean, that's just a function of the NFL, and Darnold has looked good, despite the fact that now he changed teams and it's a new offensive coordinator, but he seems to be very comfortable within this scheme with Clint Kubiak, and then you take into consideration the fact that Shaheed, I would argue, gives them maybe another dimension. They do have Jackson Smith and Jigba. You mentioned Horton, but you can never have enough. You don't know who's going to go down at any given time, and Darnold has thrived with the deep ball this season. There was another wide receiver on the move. Jacoby Myers went to the Jaguars earlier today from the Raiders, and Jacksonville, also a team that is still very much in the hunt, and they just put Travis Hunter on injured reserve, so he's going to miss at least the next 3 games, and Brian Thomas Jr. got banged up in their game on Sunday. So I think the theme is teams that are finding themselves in the mix, if they feel they can acquire a player, and Myers is on an expiring contract. Logan Wilson has 2 years left on his deal. Sauce, we know, was just locked up. I don't know what Rashid Shaheed's contract is. I thought he recently
By the way,
signed
Sauce
an
is
extension.
very reasonable. 3 years left, minimum this year, 25 next year, 25 the following year, 20 in 2028. 3 very reasonable numbers for a top corner.
Well, but also, John, if I'm giving up 2 first-round picks, I'm not borrowing the guy for a season. I want to make sure that I have him under contract regardless of what the money is. So all of these trades, I think they're logical in terms of need, and I think from a financial perspective, they even make more sense for these teams, considering the Colts know that, once again, if their offense could stay afloat, it's not going to put an immense amount of pressure on their defense until they get to the playoffs, where obviously the caliber of the opponent is going to change to the opposite end of the spectrum.
And just from the Giants' perspective, at 2-7 here, folks, I don't think you're going to be looking to add anybody. I don't think that's what you're looking at here. I could be wrong, and maybe I'll be proven wrong by Joe Shane, but I can't imagine you'd be trading future picks when you're 2-7 for a player to help you now. I don't think that makes a ton of sense, unless it's a guy, to your point, that's signed long-term and can help you long-term, but that would surprise me.
Yeah, I'm completely with you. We've talked about this in previous shows. I have said that if you're going to add a wide receiver, the wide receiver should not be a rental for a year. He should be somebody that makes sense moving forward with Malik Neighbors and company. And anybody else that you bring on, based on the math that you just laid out, where the Giants are, the struggles they're having on defense, I find it hard to believe that, one player is going to put on the cape and make this defense go in the opposite direction. And I would say the same thing with respect to a wide receiver. But, of course, the caveat is if the wide receiver has a few years left on his contract and he's still young, okay, I'm willing to listen. Anything outside of that does not make any sense.
And, unfortunately, the price on a guy like that is going to be very, very high.
Sure, yeah.
And
you got to weigh that as well.
You got to trade a top 40 pick, top 45 pick, whatever it might be next year, based on what the Giants' record is. That's something you got to figure out. All right, let's go to Marcus in California. Marcus, thanks for being patient. What's up, man?
Hey, how you guys doing?
We're good.
Doing well, Marcus. What's on your mind?
Good. No, first I just wanted to wish John Mara to get well soon. I feel like a jerk for not saying it last week when I called,
No,
but
okay.
I wish him well soon.
Thank you.
Midway of the season, here we are. For me, I told myself at the beginning of the season that if we split the division and win a couple games outside of that, I felt like we got better, and that was before the draft and everything. And we do sit 1.5 games outside of second place. And for me, second place in the division, I'm okay with it. It means we win some more games and we split the division. I'm okay with it. I think the frustration when it comes to trading today at the deadline is that every year we're here and it's like, well, can't trade because we're 2-7 or we're not. You know what I mean? And it gets frustrating year after year when you see things like I don't want Sauce Gardner. I don't want to trade a first-round pick for anything, but we never do things to put a better product on the field, no matter who's here.
Well, Marcus, I will say this, though. Generally looking around the league, these trade deadline deals generally do not have a high workout percentage for the teams making these trades. Like, you look at last year,
Yeah.
Mike Williams got traded at the trade deadline, Amari Cooper got traded at the trade deadline, and a lot of times there's a reason these teams are willing to move these players because they don't have much left in the tank. So I get your frustration, but I don't think the reason the Giants are where they are is not because they're not making trade deadline moves is the point I'm making.
Yeah. No. And I'm not mad because I emotionally go back and forth between wanting to and not to. And I think when I called last week, I said I was okay not doing it. I just don't want us to hurt Jackson Dart like we did Eli at the end of his career and Daniel Jones through his career and just not help him. To me, right now, it seems like more than helping him than any record or anything. And it does have to be a long-term person. It can't just be like, someone who's a rental. And I agree. And if we don't, we don't. And then I hope we take a left tackle or not to like a tackle or a wide receiver in the draft and just build from there, because Jackson Dart's going to be our star as long as he stays healthy.
Well,
but
Marcus,
I do think we should help him.
Well, when you say you should help him, what position do you feel the Giants should acquire to help him? Because you were laying out the offensive line, and I can tell you right now, no team is parting ways with a top left tackle or right tackle because once they get them, they're going to lock them up. So that's just not feasible to acquire at the deadline.
With our offensive line this year, I've said it too on air. I have zero complaints. They're playing better than they have in the last 10 years, I believe, and hats off to them. And, I know a lot of that was Cam Scatterbo, but they're still playing great. Not happy with the sack, though, but I'll never blame Andrew Thomas for anything. I mean,
that was not Andrew Thomas's fault.
I'm just thinking, you know what, man? Yeah. It wouldn't hurt to trade. We're here at the drop rate again. That is the thing that is hurting our offense the most is just the drop rate, and it's killing us, and it always does, and it's the same people dropping the ball. And I think if we maybe swap one of them instead of going all in and saying this person's going to fix our offense, it would just be nice to swap some of these people out and be like, you just got to catch the ball. Like, you're there, the ball's there, you just got to catch it, man. And we win some more of these games.
Thank you.
And the defense just needs to play better, but have a good day.
Hey, you too, Marcus.
Yeah,
appreciate
the phone call.
Hey, look, we said in the offseason, Lance, I forget what show it was, but we did if you could add one player at one position to the team, where would you add him? And I think I had wide receiver on that show. They didn't really have a true number two, and then once Neighbors goes out, you don't have a true number one. So I thought they could always use another playmaker, and it became even more obvious once Slayton went out. Neighbors hurt his knee, then Slayton went out with the hamstring on top of that, and I think you can use some help with that position. On the offensive line, it's funny. He says you got to bring in an offensive tackle, and here's I think will be an interesting conversation we're going to have now when we get to the offseason, Lance, because he's right. I think a really underrated reason that Jackson Dart has had a successful start to his NFL career is the offensive line has actually protected him pretty well. And he's had time. He's held the ball a bunch, but he's gotten protection. If he was trying to play the way he's playing now behind the Giants offensive line 2 years ago, he'd be dead. He'd be like 5 feet under the turf in MetLife Stadium. He would be murdered. But he's gotten protection. And you're looking at this offensive line now. Andrew Thomas is signed long-term. John Runyon is signed beyond this year. I think only 1 year. I think he signed a 3-year deal, if I remember right. John Michael Schmitz is heading into the final year of his rookie contract. Greg Van Roten's a free agent.
And so is Illuminor.
Jermaine Illuminor is a free agent. So you're going into a period of the next 2 years where you're not sure. You finally found an offensive line that's playing well, but now all of a sudden these guys are free agents. So you're going to have to figure out if you have to pay them or not, right? So, and I've said this before, I'm a big fan of the guy, I'm a big fan of the player. The Giants have been dying to find a good right tackle for a long time, Lance. Jermaine Illuminor is a good right tackle. He needs to be here. He just needs to be here. And I think you got to bring him back. I know it'll depend on the price and cost. I understand all that. And that obviously is the driving force behind this type of thing. But I would be hard-pressed. As much as I like Marcus Bowen, I think he has a lot of talent and a lot of potential to let a guy that you know is a really good starting right tackle out the building. Because you felt Jermaine Illuminor not being there last week. You felt him not being out there.
Yeah.
Greg Van Roten, how much longer does he want to play? He's well over 30. He's come back on 1-year deals. Does he still want to continue to play? I don't know the answer to that. And then you got to figure out Schmitz and then Runyon the years after that. But now it gets difficult. So honestly, if I'm in the draft, you already have Marcus Bowe, you have re-signed Illuminor, you have Andrew Thomas. I'm focused on interior offensive line myself. I'm looking at guards and centers, given what you're looking at in terms of just based on not even quality of the players, just who's on their contract and who's not over the next couple of years.
And I think you can accomplish that through the draft. I don't necessarily think you got to tap into free agency money.
Oh, no. I'm talking
that.
draft. Absolutely, for sure.
So, I mean, as far as the offensive line, I think we pretty much explained where they're at. Wide receiver.
It was a 3-year deal, so Runyon has one left.
Signed that in 2024 was when he signed the extension, which I just looked up.
Or the free agent contract. What's an extension? Yeah.
The free agent contract in terms of the bringing him on from Green Bay. But as far as the wide receiver is concerned, to the caller's last point, you look at the two guys that were traded today, and now I know Rashid Shaheed, it was a 4th and a 6th round pick. That's the compensation.
All right, that's good compensation for him.
Jacoby Myers was also a 4th and a 6th, but Myers is on an expiring contract. That would have not made sense for the Giants. It wouldn't have made any sense to give up 2 picks for a guy that you're going to rent for the second half of the season, who I also don't think is a game-changing wideout that is going to change the trajectory of your offense. Shaheed, would he have brought something different to the Giants? Yeah, a guy that could take the top off the ball. The Giants do have some speedsters. The execution hasn't necessarily been there. So you could avoid that. But then again, you are giving up a 4th and a 6th for a player that, based on the targets he's going to get, you need the routes to develop. He's not an intermediate guy.
He's very similar to Slayton.
Correct. I mean, I think actually Slayton may offer you a little bit more just in terms of the route running.
I agree with that.
So, and I hate calling guys a one-trick pony. I think that's disrespectful. I'm just going to use it with the way Shaheed is utilized in the Saints offense. He does come across as a one-trick pony.
And by the way, he is also a free agent after this year.
Well, there you go. More of a reason than I wouldn't do that deal. So when callers present, I wish the Giants would go after wide receiver, I'm going to counter based on who was shipped out of town thus far, John. I'm going to live in more of a realistic world, than a hypothetical
It's a premium position. Teams aren't going to trade good players to those positions unless they're getting premium value back. Like Giant fans have called up about, and again, we're not referencing these players. This is not a deal where we're talking about players on other teams, but people have speculated like Chris Olave or Jalen Waddle. Those are guys that are 25 years old or 26 years old in, I think, Waddle's case, that are first-round picks and are potential, either high-end number 2s or low-end number 1s. You're not getting that for like a 3. Like that's not that's not what's happening here. So, and those teams have to be blown away in order to move those types of players. Anyway,
plus, Waddle's under a very respectable deal.
Much like the Sauce Gardner contract, he already got paid a signing bonus.
Correct.
Right.
So why would the Dolphins give him away for nothing? If anything, you hold on to him. You see maybe if his value could go up and you trade him in a year or two. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense from at least Miami's perspective.
Let's go to line 3. Coach Kevin in Arizona. Coach Kevin, what's going on?
Hey, how you guys doing?
We're good.
Hey, I just, as a former coach, by the way, we never want to criticize another coach, and would never want to do that, but I got to share some thoughts, just breaking down film, and I know you guys are good at the analytics. So, but Shane Bowen, to me, looks confused, and especially in this game. Now, we all know the Shanahan offense. It doesn't change. He's a master at what he does, yet Bowen kept changing the defensive coverages. I kept looking at different coverages during the game, but the offense never changed.
Well, I mean, you want to mix up your coverages, Kevin. You don't want to show, but you don't want to show Kyle Shanahan the same coverage every play. Then he's going to kill you.
No. What I'm saying is, but he didn't even run the right coverage against that offense. Against that offense, which is a short passing game, 2.5 seconds to get rid of the ball. You got to tighten up your corners. You can't just let him throw the ball in 2 seconds and whip it out to some guy and there's nobody near him.
Now, you are aware, Kevin, of who is...
Now, you can change the back end. You can change the safeties and all that, but you can't allow a free passing lane. You're not going to get pressure on the quarterback, okay? So you got to find a way to put pressure on the receivers early and often to jam it up. He's getting rid of the ball.
I understand what you're saying, Kevin. And by the way, I don't disagree with you. And if you were rolling Paulson, Adebo, and Cordell flat out there as your top 2 outside corners, absolutely. I think they're worried about putting their 2 corners that were out there in the press coverage when the guys can get behind them, and then it turns into an 80-yard touchdown catch.
Especially a Corey Black who just returned to the team.
That, but then you got new guys out there that that haven't been starters, and I think in one way you can actually confuse them by changing things, and I don't see any continuity there with the new guys coming in. I think you still have to play aggressive, and this has always been a complaint I've seen with Bowen. He's just not aggressive. I mean, look at the player interviews. I listen carefully to these players that are interviewed by your staff, or the people that with your network. And I can see it in the players' faces. I've been there on the line for 18 years. I know what it looks like. They're down, and I think personally, I think Bowen has lost the defensive room, all of them. I listen carefully. Listen to your former All-Pro guy that's on Banks. Listen to what he's saying. These guys are dejected. They don't believe in the coach anymore.
Now, Kevin.
You can see it.
Now, I want to ask you a question.
Now,
now, you say they wanted to be more aggressive, right? Can you explain what you mean by that? Because the last thing you want to do is blitz a Kyle Shanahan offense. That is a bad idea.
Blitz. No. You can't blitz him.
Right.
He'll kill you with a blitz.
Correct.
I'm saying aggressive. I'm saying you get up on the face in the first 5 yards and you hit those receivers. And let's say you go to a cover 2 man on the outside, hit him. And you got to slow it down. You got to get these guys off balance. You just can't let them have free run to make a quick out and in, and then just stand there in 2 seconds and whip the ball to these open spaces. You got to be a lot more physical on the outside. Yes, I understand. It's a give and take, but against the Shanahan offense, he hasn't changed this offense in years. It is a lot of mishmash and scrubs and all this quick stuff. You got to be up there, and you just got to be more physical. And I think Shane just got outcoached terribly in this game, and he didn't adjust at all. No physicality whatsoever. Left the flats wide open, left the crossers over the middle, the crisscross, which has been in his offense for forever, wide open. I mean, you just can't do it. And you're not going to get a rush. You're not going to be able to blitz this guy. You have to be physical with those receivers, and that's all I have to say.
No.
And I think Shane just got out coached.
Thank you, Kevin.
All right, Kevin.
Appreciate the call. And look, I don't disagree with your concept. I'm always in favor of pressing up at the line of scrimmage and being physical with receivers. And overall this year, could I understand that criticism? Yes, and I wouldn't necessarily fight back on it either. But when you're rolling out the corners the Giants were rolling out this week, Lance, I get why you're going to play a little bit softer there.
Well, and that's why what my response to Kevin would be, and I understand where he's coming from. I just think unless you speak to Bowen and the position coaches, what do they think of Corey Black pressing at the line of scrimmage? I mean, that would be my question to them. And if they say that's not his strength, we don't like to put him in that position, then that could explain why they're not implementing what Kevin is recommending or some of these other corners, because you're down to options 3 and 4. And, he mentioned you're not seeing continuity. Of course you're not seeing continuity. These guys have barely been on the field with one another. So I don't think that's a surprising development. And I would agree that is the root of the problem in terms of not being able to stop the run, because the weakness is the middle and the back end of your defense. You're asking them to play different coverages in terms of the receivers, but they also need to still focus on being in position to help stop the run. I mean, there was one play, and I listened to the press conferences just like Kevin was, but I also go back and I listen to the opposing team because I always learn something. The play that McCaffrey was wide open, John, in the flat, remember Mac Jones dumped it off to him and then he ran up the right sideline. McCaffrey even said that wasn't even designed to go to him. That was Mac Jones just determining on the fly.
Really? I didn't see
to
that.
dump it off to him. Yeah, McCaffrey said, they asked him about that play. He goes, yeah, I wasn't even designed to run that route or him being the first look. He said, Mac, I turned around, and by the time I turned around, the ball was coming to me because Mac Jones noticed they left me all alone on the right side.
For some reason, Corey Black played the seam, and he didn't play the outside.
So it's been very difficult.
Not Corey Black's fault. It's his first start. Yeah. It's a young guy. That stuff's going to happen.
So I go back to, unless I know what Shane Bowen is thinking and the position coaches, that could be at least the rationale. And I'm not saying you need to accept it, but that could be why they're not saying we're going to bring these guys up and press the wide receivers, because we don't feel that's their strength. And if you bring a guy up too close, John, you try to press him, then you could really be torched if you're caught out of position. Case in point, and once again, I'm not trying to get off topic, a lot of people are making Deron Bland out to be the poster child of criticism last night, where he was lined up with Marvin Harrison Jr. and he did a maneuver and crossed him over like a point guard does. Play that's making you try to work on the perimeter, and he was floored, and Marvin Harris Jr. walked into the end zone. So that could happen if you put a guy in a position where he's not comfortable to do that.
All right, let's go back to the phone. Say what's up to John in New Jersey. John, what's going on?
Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for taking the call. Love your show.
Thank you.
Need a therapy session, though. This has been rough.
I get it.
Another terrible season. 3 years in a row, 2-7. We're done by Halloween again. But people try and point to everyone's always trying to figure out, is it Shane, is it Bowen, is it the head coach, is it Dable? It's all the above. We're on our fourth head coach since the Super Bowl, and we have a head coach who hasn't shown me. We had the one, we had a decent year his first year. We got to the playoffs, but outside of that, he hasn't shown the ability to squeeze every ounce out of these players that he has to come away with winning football, to win a game where you're not supposed to win. And, now we go down a starter, we're down a couple of starters. I'm not saying offensively. Defensively, we go down with Debo and Holland. Since they're out, all of a sudden our whole defense falls apart. People have been running up and down the field since. And then therefore, I blame, then you have to bring in Joe Shane. Where's our depth? That's what happens when you whiff on first-round picks. We have Deontay Banks is a first-round pick that he's basically, it seems like, I don't want to call a guy useless, so he's trying, but if you're backfilling with these players who are incompetent, the whole season's gone. It can't be like that. We've had 4 years now of this. And we let Saquon, I have to bring the whole, but you let him, Saquon and McKinney walk, and then you're throwing money at Darius Slayton, who's dropping balls on the Jackson Dart's playing his heart out. Well, half the team is like, we're not sure if they're trying. We don't know if it's he's throwing darts now, down the field, hitting guys in the back shoulder, dropping it. I mean, Darius Slayton, come on, he blew the game in against the Saints. He dropped 2 balls, fumbled another. These guys are supposed to be helping this rookie out. The rookie's carrying them. It's frustrating. It really is. And even the kicker. How many times is the kicker going to cost us a game? Between being hurt, sometimes it's not his fault, right? He gets hurt before the game. Now he comes in the game and misses of all things, he misses it after a turnover. I mean, he can't make it up. So, to me, honestly, I know you guys. I don't want to. Nobody wants to come on here and wish someone's
John, you're fine.
Out, because nobody wants to wish that. I want to come on here. I want to be looking forward to the game Sunday, but you can't go on this for 4 years now. So, I think we need an organizational change, and hopefully the organization has an answer, because we're on our 4th coach now since the Super Bowl. And, luckily, overall body of work, I've seen 4 Super Bowls, so overall you can't complain too much. But this last 10 out of 12 years has just been rough, and now, not to keep going, but then you got the whole, we were embarrassed on Hard Knocks the last time. That's coming out again. I mean, we're going to have to live through this again. That's coming out. They're doing the NFC East for the second half of the season. We're going to be talking about the same stuff.
Well, something tells me
if
you've looked at previous episodes, I don't know how much the Giants are going to be showcased on Hard Knocks.
And by the way, also
keep that in mind.
And also these in-season Hard Knocks, it's very much on the field focus. You're not going to get half as much behind-the-scenes stuff as you usually get in these episodes. So
yeah.
Just something to keep in mind.
Well, and the reason why I say it's not necessarily evenly distributed throughout the division, and I love Hard Knocks. I've watched it religiously. Last season, they did the AFC North, and there was a point where Cleveland, you wouldn't even know they were in the AFC North.
Well, I'll tell you what,
because they decided we're not going to showcase the Browns.
The league picked, and look, I don't know way to know this, but the league picked the wrong year to do the NFC East.
Yeah, because it's a down year.
You're going to have 3 teams that are going to be out of the playoff mix in a matter of 2-3 weeks.
And Philadelphia could very well be running away with things. I think one of the two probably is still being the wild card, right? Because remember, not anybody's running away. That 7th seed is always within striking
In order
distance.
to bring out you have to bring out the cackler and the abacus to figure out a way to put them into to put them in the hunt section on the old infographics, though.
That's what happens when they expand the playoffs, John.
Jaden Daniels might be out for the year. He's not going to be there. Now, look, you can always film Jerry Jones doing crazy stuff. The league will love that. So you can always put the Cowboys on. People will watch it. But the Giants, obviously, their record is what it is. The Eagles are good for some drama sometimes. Maybe A.J. Brown will, have some locker room issues or something, whatever.
Yeah, and they've made a number of trades, so you'll see how the new guys are meshed in and so forth.
Yeah.
But listen, I understand where the last caller's coming from. Just a few things real quickly. I don't think the Gano missed field goal, although I said earlier in the show it was a missed opportunity. I'm not disputing that. But looking back at how the game played out, I don't think the missed field goal came back to bite the Giants, and that's why they lost to the Niners. That's number one. And
I agree.
I don't want to rehash, John, the whole Barkley-McKinney thing, which is what the caller referenced, but let's at least be honest in our assessment. They weren't necessarily winning with those 2 guys in the fold. And I'm not saying that they wouldn't have helped, but to just say you bring those 2 back and all of a sudden and everything's great. It's not so simplistic, at least to have that narrow lens.
Yeah, look, McKinney's been great since he left, but just in terms of Saquon, and I said this on the show earlier this year, look what he's doing with the Eagles this year. That's the type of situation he's been with the Giants.
Yeah, where you're not scratching the pinnacle of what he could do.
You don't have 3 yards before contact on every run where he's getting a head start. He's not getting touched in the backfield. So running back success, as I always say this, is very much determined about what's going on around them, who the quarterback is, who the wide receivers are, and most importantly, what the offensive line is doing. So that's very much going to dictate how good an running back plays.
And I didn't mean to cut you off, John, but remember, there's a trade-off, and we talk about this all the time. So if you bring back Barkley and McKinney, if you want to go down this hypothetical road, which it tends to be the conversation, then some of the guys that the Giants have brought in are not here. Keep in mind.
You might not have Cam Scatterbo either.
Yeah. Correct, because of the draft positioning that you got as a result of the compensatory picks and all. So, you see, it's a give and take. Maybe Adebo's not here. Maybe Holland's not here. Maybe some of the offensive linemen, Runyon, who they signed. You can't just say we keep Barkley and McKinney and then we bring in everybody. It doesn't work like that. Just like you can't give a team back points earlier in a game and say, oh, well, that changes the decision-making, or the decision-making is going to be the same. There's a domino effect. There's going to be 18 other things that change as a result of the thing that you changed earlier in the show. I mean, this is like a Marvel movie, but go ahead.
Yeah.
Is it not? I mean,
it depends which dimension you're in, right?
Correct.
Where you change the path on the line.
There you go.
We need Owen Wilson here to explain it to everybody with these diverging passes.
Yeah, he'll be a guest host next week.
Yes, correct. Yeah. All right, let's go to we'll close with our friend Johnny Mac. So let's go to Levon in Atlanta. He'll be up next on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Levon, what's up?
Hey, guys. I'm a long-time listener. I used to call in sporadically in the past, but usually I'm working in the afternoons when you guys are on, so I catch the replay.
That's all good. What's up?
So this is a big experience for you taking it in live now.
Oh, I'm sorry. I consume a lot of Giant content, whether it be different podcasts, you guys, all the other different shows. And I just wanted to say that what bothers me more than the team struggling, and I'm a fan of the Giants my whole life, only football team I cheer for, is just the overall temperature of the fan base, the toxicity of it, of the complaining and the calling for people's jobs. And, I mean, I just think it's not productive, and I know you guys sit there. You do a wonderful job listening to week after week, day after day of criticism and fire this person, and this person is not performing well. And you guys never ask these people harder questions like, well, what would you do, not in retrospect, not after the fact, but tomorrow against Chicago? What defense should we play? Who should we roll out there instead of Deontay Banks? When should we blitz? And, I mean, it's not an easy job with the coaches and what the GM has to do. When people want to criticize the moves Joe Shane makes, I mean, how many teams hit on all 7-6 of their draft picks? So you don't do that. Sometimes you just hit on one. Sometimes you hit on a guy and you sign him to a multi-year deal and you turn around and you trade him during the season. Sauce Gardner just got dealt from the Jets. So as one Giants fan, I just want to say I have a positive outlook. I look forward to every game. When we play, I have realistic expectations. I look for improvements in the young players. I pray for no injuries. And I will always think that way. And I just hope that there's more fans out there like me. And, if you just want, you go root for Buffalo or somebody else. But we'll be good again. Thanks, guys.
Right,
Thank
Levon.
you. Hey, look, Levon, this is what happens when a team has a sustained period of a lack of success. I, unfortunately, am an expert on this topic, given I'm a Knicks fan. And the 2003 to 2018 Knicks were probably a little bit more dysfunctional, but the level of success was similar to what we've seen from the Giants over the last, 10 or 12 seasons. And look, when a fan base gets just trampled, and, it's just disappointing year after disappointing year, this is what you get. And I know ownership here gets that. They understand that they're disappointed. Ownership's devastated by this too. They hate this. They don't want to lose. They react and watch every game like the fans do, right? They do. So I get it until things, look, the ultimate vitamin is vitamin W, right? It's winning. That's the only thing that fixes any of this is by winning. And by the way, Knicks have started winning. Fans still lose their minds about stuff. They want to fire Tom Thibodeau after getting the team to the Eastern Conference Finals. So that's just
how that worked out.
That's just the way fan bases are, right? That's just the way fan bases are in all of sports. It is what it is. Fans have every right to be upset. We're happy to talk to you guys and call and do your complaints. We'll listen to everything you guys have to say. But I mean, it is what it is. I mean, that's just kind of where we are right now, right?
Yeah, you can't in sports just automatically turn to making constant changes because that's not going to solve the riddle either. And I think that's where the last caller was coming from. And I commend Levon. I mean, that was real strong, rational thought and sanity, which you don't necessarily hear, where you take the emotion, right? And I get it. Fans are emotional, and they rightfully are because they're invested. I get that. But that last caller was a bit refreshing because I think he was taking a step back from the emotion and saying, okay, well, you can't necessarily call for this changing and that changing because that's not necessarily going to do anything. It goes back to when we were talking to another caller earlier, Kevin, who was saying, Shane Bowen and the changes, well, you could confuse personnel and then you're back to square one too. So you're always walking that fine line where you want to fix things, but there's no necessarily quick fix by just pushing random buttons too.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. Now on the opposite end of the spectrum would be
balance out the show.
Wilson and Roxbury. Hi, Wilson.
What a segue.
Hey, listen, Levon, tell me when the Easter Bunny's coming to dinner, and I'll go eat with you. I mean, that was a rough phone call, man. I mean, Johnny, listen, I don't like. You know what? I said that because people talk about me when other people that call say I'm crazy. So I just had to.
No, Wilson, we're all having fun. It's all good.
He didn't mention your name at all. He didn't bring you up once. Hold on, Levon didn't mention your name at all. You must be, listening to other things in your imaginative world. Yeah.
Well, he kind of. Well, maybe I just took it a little far.
I think you did. Yeah, I think somebody's a little sensitive this afternoon.
All kidding aside. All kidding aside. Johnny, you know I love you.
But
I don't want to tell you I told you so. But I have to tell you, I told you so. Last year, I told you, Johnny, you cannot bring a head coach and a general manager back that have won 6 games in 3 games. Just for the sake of continuity. You said, Wilson, I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. But can't keep changing over and over. I said, okay, Johnny, that's fine. We're back again 2-7. You know how hard it is to go 2-7 3 years in a row? I don't think if you try to do it, you can do it.
Oh, no, you can.
Have you seen the Cleveland Browns? Have you seen the New York Jets? Do you want me to name other organizations over the course of recent and past history?
Or go to different leagues, the Washington Wizards, if you please.
Now, notice the Knicks beat them last night. How convenient,
well, Lance, you were saying, well, the injuries and the players play. Every coach could say, well, hey, I sent the plays. The players don't execute. Every coach could say that. It's over. I just want to ask you something, though. All kidding aside, Danny, if they lose against, forget about losing. I know they're going to lose against Chicago. But if they lose, if they show the lack of whatever, because they were playing against backups with San Francisco, and it was half the stadium was San Francisco fans. Danny, I don't know what we're going to do. I mean, I'm trying to be rational. But I can't take 8 more weeks of this, Johnny. I can't, man.
Well, Wilson, here's the bottom line, though, Wilson. Wilson, all I'm saying, even if they do make some type of change, and I'm not advocating that, I have no idea what they're doing. I have no idea.
I don't want you to say
that. No. Wilson, just let me finish my sentence. Even if they do make some type of change, I don't think what you're seeing for the last 8 weeks is going to change. It's not like you're going to bring a whole new scheme in here. You're going to change everything you're doing. It's November.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, Johnny, listen, I'm going to say something. This is my personal opinion. I think you should make a call to Nick Saban and just to come in and oversee what's going on and give his opinion, who stays, who goes. Johnny, this cannot go on anymore, Johnny. I mean, I love the Giants for 45 years, man. They have destroyed me. And maybe it's nobody, I don't know whose fault. I don't want to put any more blame on it because I'm beyond that. But if we have to go 8 more weeks for this, you know what, Johnny? All kidding aside, I don't have any answers.
That's 3
anymore.
for those counting at home that he said, all kidding aside. But please, go ahead. Yes.
No, I just don't have any answers, Lance. But
Now, Wilson,
You
we
took
don't
the
either.
words, Wilson, you took the words right out of our
No,
mouths.
but Lance right here, I mean, what I'm
That
saying
is exactly how I would summarize most of your phone calls.
No, but look, I don't think at this point anyone has any answers. I don't think
Yeah.
right now there aren't any easy answers. I think is the point. I think, Wilson, and appreciate the call. Thank you very much. You don't have the answers. I certainly don't have the answers. Lance doesn't have the answers. And if they had the answers here, it'd be fixed by now, right? There is no easy, just go flip that light switch over there. No, we're good. We're rocking and rolling. Let's do, all we got to do is change one thing and we're good. Like, it's not that easy.
Well, every time Wilson calls up, and I'm not advocating for or against anybody losing their job, but when you call up and, Wilson, you keep looking at the previous history, the Giants have also gone through circumstances where they didn't give the same leeway to a head coach like a Pat Shurmur, who I thought actually did a nice job with Daniel Jones.
And a Ben
they went
McAdoo
4
and a
and
Joe
12,
Judge.
correct? And then you brought in Joe Judge and you went 6 and 10. So I'm bringing that up just as an example of, if you look at it from the opposite perspective, you can make change, and that's fine. You could give a fresh perspective, what you're calling for, but to assume that 2 and 7 gets thrown out of the window because you're bringing in a new coach and a new GM, there is no guarantee in the National Football League that that's going to happen. And that's what I'm trying to impart in terms of this conversation. And Wilson's called up previously, and I've said the same thing. I'll continue to say it. I'm not anti-change, but this idea that you change and that it's going to be easy to flip the switch, I completely disagree with that sentiment.
The Giants over a span from 2017 to 2021 had 4 different head coaches, if you include Steve Spagnuolo as the interim. In those years, they won 3 games, 5 games, 4 games, 6 games, and 4 games. That's what they did.
Yeah.
A lot of change, a lot of new stuff. The results, all very similar.
And you've now been through multiple quarterbacks, too.
And again, that doesn't mean that change isn't sometimes the right move. Sometimes it is. Absolutely. And we'll see what Giants ownership decides to do after the year. But, again, it's not going to be a flip of a switch type of deal here.
And the other thing that I just wanted to respond to, Wilson was bringing up the whole thing about any coach can turn to injuries as being an excuse. John and I are not sitting here and justifying. When we were talking about the flaws against the Niners, we're just explaining to you the reality is when Shane Bowen's working with the third and the fourth corner, those are just the conversations that go on.
Yeah, you have to game plan
amongst
around
the coaching
that.
staff.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's saying that Shane Bowen and Brian Daboll are excited and happy that they're working with personnel on the back end, or that they're running to the podium and justifying and saying that that's a legitimate excuse. But the reality is the Giants are where they are right now because they've lost a lot of personnel.
And by the way,
that's what it is.
There's no one more injured than the 49ers.
Correct.
No one has more injuries than the 49ers. They've lost 2 Hall of Famers off their defense. They don't have their starting quarterback. They don't have their number 1 wide receiver. They don't have their number 2 wide receiver. They were missing their number 1 tight end, another potential future Hall of Famer, George Kittle, for 5 weeks.
Fred Warner.
They're still
Nick
6 and
Bosa,
3.
You name it. Yeah.
By the way, also missing their second best pass rusher in Bryce Huff, missing their third best pass rusher in Yetur Gross-Matos. So no, it's not an excuse to lose to the 49ers. Do you have to game plan around it? Does it make it much harder to game plan your defense? Absolutely. Absolutely. Which is, again, what we said before. The Giants' offense had to carry their load a little bit this week, and they didn't do good enough. But no. The Niners are just as hurt as the Giants were, if not more. So it's not an excuse this week. No one's using that. And by the way, the coaches haven't used that as an excuse. No one has. It's just kind of where you're at. Guys, I know you're looking for answers. I don't have one for you. We'll see what ends up happening. And there's 8 games left. You hope Jackson Dart keeps playing better. You hope you protect him. You hope he stays healthy. Can't have another loss here. And you try to just play as good a football as you can, win as many games as you can, as much as that'll annoy fans as they try to find draft position at the end of the year. That's what they're going to try to do. And we'll see where we're at when you get to the final game of the season against the Cowboys. Anything else, Lance?
No, it's just, it's not going to get any easier this week with the Chicago Bears, who had a tremendous win against the Bengals. I still don't understand how they won that football game, but
neither do the Bengals.
Exactly.
Bengals have had 2 straight games like that against the Jets and the Bears. My goodness.
Boy, sometimes football's a real head-scratching
Oh,
sport.
my gosh.
And I think that perfectly laid it out.
But again, you're going to have to score against the Bears now. It's the same deal. Bears can score points.
It's a very different team than a year ago. So this is not the Chicago Bears of old. This is a team that looks a lot more respectable, and it's a defense that, listen, gave up a lot of yards and points to the Bengals, but they've been opportunistic prior to that. So, they're a bit of a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, meaning, you feel the Giants should be able to move the football, but the question is, and it's still always going to fall back on this every week, can the Giants contain the Bears' offense, the run game, to put pressure on Caleb Williams to have to maybe make decisions that are a little bit out of character?
Whether that's DeAndre Swift or Kyle Monengai. Either one
Multiple
of those
backs.
guys.
Yeah. And also Caleb can run, by the way, too. Let's not forget.
Too. And
he had a big run late in that game.
2 good tight ends. They have 2 good wide receivers, 3 good wide receivers if you count Zacchaeus, who's actually a pretty good number 3. So you're going to have to score some points. And look, Ben Johnson's not Kyle Shanahan yet, but he's a damn good offensive coach. So we'll see what the Giants' secondary looks like in terms of health. You think maybe Javon Holland can be back this week because he was limited last week at practice? You hope Cordell Flott. Concussion protocol usually lasts only a week.
Sure.
Hope you get him back. We'll see about Paulson Adebo. It'll give you a better shot. But you're going to have to score some points because the Bears' offense is pretty good. That's all I'm saying. Lance, always a fun time.
Absolutely. Always an adventure. Never a dull moment.
By the way, your Bulls look pretty darn good this year.
They
by
do.
The way.
Yeah, absolutely. They didn't
Josh
look good
Giddey's playing
in the second game against the
Josh,
Knicks,
but Josh Giddey's playing some good basketball.
Well,
Man.
listen,
Hitting his threes. Really impressive.
Well, this is what happens when you take a complimentary player from OKC and you give him a more prominent role.
Well, and you
He's
actually
able to show his true colors.
Are patient with a young player and let him develop a little bit and not assume at age 18 when he gets drafted he's going to be great right away.
No,
maybe it's going to take till he's 23 or 24. Anyway.
Well, I think the patient approach is paying off because the Bulls are a young team and now they're reaping the rewards. It's early. It's looked good. And hopefully it will continue.
And your,
so that
and your shooter hasn't even played yet.
Yeah,
right? White?
Kobe White, he's
Kobe
been
White
hurt.
hasn't even played yet.
And also Zach Collins has been hurt, one of their big men.
Yeah,
he's been sidelined too. They're going to get both of them back.
Yeah, so
maybe we'll get a little.
Having a nice little start.
Well, who knows? Maybe we'll get another Bulls-Knicks rivalry renewed.
Always looking forward to that.
Absolutely.
All right, for Lance Medow, I'm John Schmeelk. Thanks for being with us on Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. From the Hackensack Meridian Health Podcast Studio, keep getting better. Tomorrow, I actually know who's on tomorrow. It's O'Hara and Madeline.
I don't know why you always play that game with yourself.
I
always crack up.
I know. I always have fun with it.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow, 12:30, Big Blue Kickoff Live. Adios.